County, and Dan's favorite, Pierce County. So, hey, shoot us your questions. I try to see them. My phone is kind of tucked behind the laptop here, so I have to, throw out some hearts or something so I can tell you're asking me a question, and then I'll get up, I'll do like this, and I'll peer down and see what your questions are. So anyway, that's kind of the trick today, guys. So here we go. We are going live on Facebook, and where else, Dan?
YouTube, yes.
YouTube. Yes. So we're going to be Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. So here we go. All right. So are we live yet on yours?
Yes, we are live.
Stream this to you. Okay, I just got to stream this to my audience. Hold on. I got to get it to my Facebookers here. Oops, and I got to plug in the name. This is where it gets clunky at the very beginning because you got to do all this stuff right after you turn it on live. Okay. Let's see. Cat and Dan show things real estate. Whoosh. Watch out, buyers. Multiple offers ahead. And I'm not even joking. I just pulled some interesting stats.
Whoa. I'm sorry.
Did you not hear me?
I didn't listen to a word you said.
Hi, guys. Dan's not listening to me. I feel very unimportant right now. Are you guys listening to me? Let me see. Oh, you guys are joining. Hey, Edward. Hey, Daryl. Hi, guys. Hi. What is it? Rhett, Patrick. Hi. Sorry, I had to get right up to my phone to see your guys' names. So it's a little awkward. But hey, yeah. Okay. So I pulled data. I'm just gonna lunge right in, Dan, because I got really excited when I just did this right before we went live.
Okay.
And so 91 homes went pending in Snohomish County in the last 0 to 7 days, like literally the last 7 days. Okay. 91 homes went pending. Of those 91, 34 sold in 7 days or less. Those, my friends, are probably all multiple offers. So now that doesn't say what the percentages of homes that listed, but what I'm saying is that fully a third of the ones that went under contract this last week, there were probably 34 multiple offer situations. There may have been several that weren't multiple offers, but if they've gone pending within the first week, it's likely. So even if they didn't set an offer review date, you don't have to set an offer review date to wind up with multiple offers. So I just wanted to point that out.
Well, it's kind of like April and January. I mean, these are really,
it's really a hot market for and the numbers that we're going to be reporting on today are actually over Christmas. And so when you hear these, you guys, you have to remember January is picking up. It's picking up. I mean, people are getting multiple offers. Listing agents are getting multiple offers on properties that have been on the market 180 days. That's what's happening now. So, and we'll talk about timing when, timing is of the essence later in the program today, because if you want to buy a property and you are going to have regret if someone else buys it, you jump on that shit. You tell your agent, get that offer written now. Don't wait. Don't have breakfast. Don't go shopping. Don't watch the rest of the football game. Once that decision is made, do it. What was the last excuse I heard? Oh, it was terrible. Oh gosh. What was it? Sid just told me. Oh gosh, it was the worst excuse in the world. And you know what? While they were doing their relaxing thing, whatever it was nothing that you couldn't have waited. Another offer came in full price. And guess what? They never even found out about it because the listing agent was tired of dealing with them because they were kind of dragging their feet and trying to get, different closing date and trying to, get money off the price and just giving and it was a builder, giving the builder a really hard time. And at that point, they didn't even want to deal with them anymore. And so when an offer came in at full price, they said, We'll take it. Let's get these other buyers out of the way. So they scooped them away, and yeah, they found out the next day that the house was gone, sold. They could have had it.
Ouch.
It's just the most recent example.
Well,
Don't be foolish. Don't let your agent be foolish. Don't play games. No.
Well, that's the thing. Sometimes if you think you're in a market that you can play games in, but you're not in a market that you can play games in, that's where you have some problems.
Your real estate broker needs to be very, very informed. And I can't stress that enough. So if they're not doing their due diligence and calling other brokers that just went under contract to find out what the market activity is actually like, then they're dropping the ball and they're not doing you a service. So
well, let's take a look at some of these numbers because they are hot. I mean, for early January,
I know I love hot numbers, Dan.
They are hot, and they are. It's really. Let's take a look at this stuff here.
Okay, what do we got? Who we got online? We got Irene on. Hi, Irene. Hi, thanks for joining. Okay, we're gonna move on. Get to the stats. So Here we go. All right. So King County. Okay, so I have to warn you that month supply of inventory it's going down, right? So across the board for all the counties. So King County is down to 1.1 months, but I will say it was 1.1 last week as well, but it's a lower 1.1 months now. So instead of like 1.17, it's like 1.12. So that's still 1.1 months, but it is going down. 31% of sellers set offer review dates. 45% of sellers got under contract within the first 7 days on the market if they listed between December 24th and December 30th. 59% of sellers in King County got under contract within the first 14 days if they listed between December 10th and December 23rd. Did I get that right? Yes, I did. I'm trying to remember my dates here. Anyway, and a couple other things I want to mention, guys. So last time when I reported on average increase in sales price for the year, I was actually using January data, which actually is lower than last December. And I was using November data. And so those numbers were actually quite a bit larger, that the percentages are quite a bit larger than if we look at December to December. So what I did this time is I looked at December to December, and I looked at my data set. So my data set is single family residential, not new construction, not attached, but literally just single family homes. So, and not waterfront, right? So, or 200 acre, right? So we're leaving out the estates. Right.
So you're just filtering out the
things. And also I'm filtering out like the cash out the ones that are not financeable because the building is in such rough shape. So we're also taking those out. So our numbers are a little bit different than what you'll find with the NWMLS in general, but these are accurate. These are more accurate for the average person living in Snohomish County that has a home that they are getting ready to sell. So I wanted to qualify that and explain myself a little bit because I was kind of looking at the numbers and going, what? So, because I was thinking that Snohomish County had gone up 16%, but that's including a lot of outliers and stuff. So let's just go over this really quick. King County's average sales price is up 5%. So December to December. So a very modest increase. Am I saying that right? Yeah. And the average price per square foot, which I think is an interesting metric to take into consideration, because that can also take into consideration, are the larger homes selling this year or are they smaller homes? Because price per square foot goes up on smaller homes. So just inherently. So King County price per square foot has gone up 8%. So December over December. So, and those are end of year figures. So it would be a little bit higher if we looked at January to December, because January actually reflects a December negotiation, but we won't have January's data, which reflects this year's negotiations, until the end of this month or beginning of February. So that's kind of what's happening there. So we've had a very modest increase in sales prices in King County over the last year. And I have no problem with 5%. I think that's great. So, okay, let's look at Snohomish County. Snohomish County, okay, so they were at 0.8 months supply of inventory last week. Well, now there is 0.78. I just wanted to make that distinction because now they've dropped below, 0.8. So again, inventory is being snapped up at a good pace. 33% of sellers set offer review dates in Snohomish County. 53% of sellers got under contract within 7 days if they listed listed between December 24th and December 30th. 59% of sellers in Snohomish County got under contract if they listed, got under contract within 14 days if they listed between December 10th and December 23rd. So a very brisk market in Snohomish County. And Snohomish County average sales prices have actually gone up 7% for the year. So again, a modest increase. And their average price per square foot has also gone up 8%, just like King County. So modest increases for sales prices in the two counties. And I think that's probably very accurate. So I like it. I'm going to take my jacket off.
I'll tell you what, I'm looking at the stats that you came out with last week, Kat.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you the one thing, first off, Snohomish County, boy, is that a strong county. Holy cow.
Snohomish County has been knocking it out of the park, you guys, for a long time. King County kind of bolted ahead there for a couple months this year, but overall, Snohomish County has an extremely strong market for the past year and a half or 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, if we look back at your last stats by Kat, Snohomish County, with 7 days on the market from the 17th of December to the 23rd, was at 45%. Okay, that's about where we're at right now, except for, no, it went up to 53%.
53. I mean, and that's a big jump.
That's a huge jump in just 1 week worth of data.
And, and you know what you have to remember, Dan? Think about this. That's the week between Christmas and New Year's.
Yeah.
It actually includes Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. So, I mean, the market you don't think is going to be clicking along, during the holiday season. But I got to tell you, this holiday season, it did just fine. And any seller that decided to go on the market, good on you. You had a 50% chance of getting under contract, 53% chance of getting under contract within that week. I mean, that's incredible.
Well, I was looking at some stats, monthly stats, so it goes back a ways. That fellow over at Calculated Risk, I should have put a graphic together for all this stuff because he's got charts. But anyway, he one of the things he keeps is active listings and sales. He kind of keeps 3 or 4 different categories of it he calls it the Northwest. That must be for the NMLS. Anyway, so like they have it broken out by San Francisco and Los Angeles and all the different spots. Instead of Seattle, it's the Northwest up here. But anyway, so but if you look at the number of active listings, I mean, I know it's quiet in December. Normally, I get it. But last month, if I'm not mistaken, it was the lowest level of active listings that they've had in it's like 20 years or 30 years or something like that. I mean, it was really low.
Yeah. It's like, let me see how many are actually. So King County is down to 667 active listings, and normally they're over 1,000 by a long shot. Snohomish County, I don't know if I've ever seen them down to 257. There's only 257 active listings. And I'm talking about, again, the whole single family, detached, not new construction. We'll talk about new construction on another day because I do want to get into that. I do think it's becoming a bigger portion of the market as new plats get started and stuff. But I just want to qualify that my data does not include new construction or attached homes. So the townhomes are not included in my data either. So anyway, but not very many homes on the market at all. Mason County only has 95 homes on the market, 109 in Skagit. Kitsap only has 207. Pierce County has 662. Pierce County actually has quite a few listings for the population size. So they have a few more. But it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if you're expecting the market to kind of ease its way into 2024. It's not doing that at all. Not one bit.
I'll tell you what, the market is coming in like a lion in January. And that's a saying. That's a saying for March. So I got to tell you guys, if you're thinking about buying, brace yourself for multiple offers, and it's going to be better now than it will be in a month. So I'm not telling anybody to hurry, but if it were me, I'd be jumping out there right now. It's going to be, you're going to have better opportunities to actually be able to negotiate and possibly still get an inspection and maybe be the only game in town in some cases. For instance, this last week, 2/3 of people, ended up probably they were probably the only offer on the table. Although, like I said earlier, we are seeing multiple offers on homes that have been on the market for, months. So just because the buyers are starting to get out there and start looking, the interest rates are down, relatively speaking, since October. And so it's a good buying opportunity right now. So we'll start to see, we'll start to see those over asking prices start to come in again. And we'll see that data in February, March.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this too. Maybe I shouldn't, because it's not a positive thing, but I'll say it anyway. Because it's gonna happen, right? So you heard it here first. Thankfully, I have a terrible track record of predictions, but
he does. He has a terrible track record for predictions. Terrible track record for predictions. He really does. He kept telling me all last year, and you guys were witnesses to this. He kept saying that this is it. The interest.
He really does. He really does have a horrible track record. Yes, he really does.
And I would even say at one point, I said, "Oh, we'll probably, we're probably going to look back on this day and say, oh, we should have probably grabbed that 7% interest rate, And sure enough, dang it, a month and a half later, we sure were wishing we had that 7% interest rate as interest rates hit 8%, 8.5%.
I was not wrong. I was just very, very early. That's all. That's all.
Very early.
Very early. Yes. So.
What do we do with you, Dan?
What's that?
You're not Nostradamus.
No. Didn't claim to be. Didn't claim to be. That's okay. You do your best. What can I say?
Oh my God. Too funny.
Okie doke. What?
All right.
What? Okay. So we're doing stats now, right?
Yeah. We want to move on to Pierce County.
Done. Okay, here we are.
So Pierce County also, their month supply of inventory has gone down. It was 1.3. Now it's 1.26. And so I want to make that distinction that inventory is being chewed up. So 15% of sellers in Pierce County set offer review dates. 30% of sellers got under contract within the first 7 days on the market if they listed between December 24th and December 30th. Not too bad. 46% of sellers got under contract within the first 14 days on the market if they listed between December 10th and December 23rd. So Pierce County rocking and rolling along a tiny bit slower pace than King and Snohomish, but that 46% in 14 days sounds pretty good to me. So for a winter market, for a between Christmas Eve and almost New Year's Eve, it's pretty good.
That's pretty impressive.
Pierce County, their average increase in sales price in this year from December 2022 through December 2023 was 4%. So again, a modest gain. So, and then, price per square foot, average price per square foot is also up 4%. So very consistent data there.
Okay, I gotta tell you, if we're moving on to Mason County, we can make that a very quick visit. There wasn't much going on down there in Mason County, but go ahead.
Mason County. Oh, it's so beautiful down there.
Well, nothing going on right now.
There's not much. Yeah. So I will say their month supply of inventory has gone down, though. It's 2.4 months supply of inventory, but we're dealing with such small numbers that one or two sales can impact the data fairly significantly. So I just want to add that. 14% of sellers set offer review dates in Mason County.
Hey, if I can ask, and you might not have that data there, but how many houses did get sold in Mason County?
I can tell you.
Or how many are listed? Something like that. It was like, are we
Mason
talking?
County has 95 listed. Okay. And
Oh,
so, yeah.
that's not
And
too bad.
so, one person set an offer review date. There
Okay.
were, let's see, how many listed? There were 7 that were listed last week. Yeah, a week ago.
And how
So
many are
there
there
were 7
listed?
listed.
Okay.
Yeah, and only one set an offer review date, which is 14%. Is that right? Yeah, 14%. And yeah, I mean, so not much. And so they ended up not having anybody go under contract between December 24th and December 30th. And I would, again, we're dealing with such small numbers that doesn't really shock me. So,
Right.
but
Yeah.
but they did have how many did they have go under contract? Let's
Well,
see.
the thing is, if they zoom up one week and just like take a huge move higher, like from 0 to 40% or something like that, it's just because there's not that many
Yeah. For
down there.
instance,
Up really quick.
of the ones that were listed between December 10th and December 23rd, there was only 10 homes listed. And
Right.
one of those went under contract within 14 days. So 10% went under contract within 14 days. Right. So between December 10th and December 23rd. So Mason County just dealing with a lot smaller population density. Right. So that's kind of what's happening in Mason County. But it's also a time of year. I think they're a lot more seasonal than some of the rest of the counties. I would say Island County probably follows that same trajectory as well.
Yeah.
Just like probably Grays Harbor and some of the other coastal communities.
That makes sense.
So Skagit County, 2.2 months supply of inventory. Again, that's come down a bit. 22% of sellers set offer review dates. And I got to tell you, in Skagit County, boy, do they have a reason to set an offer review date. They have been hot the last few weeks. So the middle of December has just been on fire for Skagit County.
They're rivaling Snohomish County right now. Look at
they
that.
are, which tells me that there are people interested in moving to Skagit County. And I think a lot of that is driven by Anacortes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I really do. Yeah, because there's a lot of water view properties in Anacortes. Makes a lot of them. So I think that increases it helps boost the numbers for Skagit County. So yeah, 50% got under contract. 50% of sellers got under contract within the first 7 days if they listed between December 24th and December 30th. And 58% of sellers got under contract within the first 14 days if they listed between December 10th and December 23rd. So Skagit County really rocking and rolling. Their average sales price, it shows them down a tad, but I don't know that I really buy that. Again, lesser population, smaller numbers that we're working with there. And then it shows that their price per square foot is up. And again, we're just dealing with such small numbers. I'm not even going to report what those numbers are because I just don't feel like it's accurate. They seem wildly off to me. So, and then Kitsap County, 1.4 months supply of inventory. 11% of sellers set offer review dates. 33% of sellers got under contract within the first 7 days on the market if they listed between December 24th and December 30th. So not bad numbers. 49% of sellers in Kitsap County got under contract within the first 14 days on the market if they listed between December 10th and December 23rd. So strong numbers for December, strong numbers for the holiday week. Got to tell you guys.
Those are strong numbers.
January, we're into January, and I have to say, brace yourself.
Yeah.
Yep. It's happening.
Well, it's important to know what you're walking into. It's going to be hand-to-hand combat pretty soon.
It is going to be hand-to-hand combat. Yep. It's crazy. Hey, I'm going to grab my jacket over here, and I'll be right back. I'm just going to put my sweater on.
Okay. Well, if you're going to put your sweater on, I'm going to put up our newest banner. We've got a guest host today.
We do?
Yes. Today's guest host, Nanook of the North. So, Nanook.
Who's Nanook?
Me. It's cold up here.
Is it
And
cold?
then it's cold where I'm at. Well,
It's
not in
cold.
my
It's
house.
coldy, as my grandkids say. It's
Not in
coldy.
my
It's
not in
really
my
coldy, Grandma.
exclusive studios here. The Nexus Studios here in Newcastle. Okay.
All right. So we're back. We're back in business. Hey, let me see who's watching my TikTok. Michelle. Oh my God, my daughter's on. Hi, honey.
Hello, Michelle.
My daughter is on. Let's see who else is on. Invite Michelle to join live. Should we invite her?
Yeah, I don't know how to do it, but sure.
Let's invite her. I'll invite her. Whoops. Invitation sent. Hi, Jason. Okay, we're going to get Michelle on here. This is going to be fun. So my daughter, just as a preamble here, my daughter is a realtor in Kitsap County in Kingston. And she gets a lot of her business from TikTok. So she's quite the the thing on TikTok these days. Michelle Cook. Let's see, is she coming on? I wonder if I missed her. Maybe she was on earlier. Hopefully she comes on. Anyway. Well, all right. Well, I just wanted to check my TikTokers. Oh, she says, "Hey, Mama." I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe she can't get on. Anyway, I invited her. I don't know what else to do. So, all right. Just sorry for the interruption, guys. I just get excited when my daughter's watching me on a live. All right, Dan, what are we looking at?
What is this? This is the there's some new rules.
Yeah,
in the real estate industry.
There's some new rules in the real estate industry, and they affect buyers. Mainly, they affect buyers. So the biggest difference will be going forward. Although I've always had my buyers sign buyer agency agreements before they sign a purchase and sale agreement. I normally have not had buyers sign agreements. I just always have operated on a handshake, and I've always been fine with that. I feel very comfortable. I trust people, and that's always worked for me. But I do understand the state saying we need buyers to sign contracts before they start entering people's homes, so that has become a thing. So now we're having the buyers sign as of January 1st, 2024. Buyers now need to sign a buyer's broker services agreement with their agent before they enter a property, before they tour a property.
Okay.
And that's for the buyer's protection as well as the real estate broker's protection. It just really defines that they're working with each other, especially if they were to purchase that one property. It also defines the length of time. It could define the length of time they want to work with you. Maybe it's just to see the one property. So it also, you also have an option of whether you want to work exclusively with that agent, or if you would like a non-exclusive agency with that particular agent. So that means that you could go out and you could work with other agents and sign the same non-exclusive agency agreement to see homes. So it doesn't necessarily mean because you sign an agreement that you're going to buy a home from that agent, but you can, like I said, you can limit it by time frame, you can limit it by property. And once you feel comfortable working with a certain particular broker, then you can, instead of having to sign one of those every time you go out and look at properties, you can just say, hey, you know what, why don't you just give us one for 180 days? So that should cover us while we get into a house. So
I've got a question on that.
Sure.
Hope you don't mind me asking.
No, not at all.
But let's say you get the buyer, they sign with you, and they sign the non-exclusive, right?
Yeah.
Non-exclusive. And then they go to the next realtor, right? Same thing, non-exclusive. Then let's say they go to the third realtor and they sign an exclusive with that third realtor, but then you find them the home that they're ultimately going to buy. How does that all work?
So you mean if they sign an exclusive with somebody else?
Yeah, if they signed a non-exclusive with you, with broker A.
You're SOL.
Really? So if you find them the house
This is
And
so that's where things. I think this is going to be. I hate to say this, but I feel like this is going to be the root of a lot of lawsuits going forward. Not a lot of them, but I think there's going to be some. There's going to be a lot of miscommunications along the way. Buyers not realizing that they're signing an exclusive agency agreement with one agent, and not realizing that they signed an exclusive agency agreement with another agent, even though that buyer services agreement asks the buyer if they have signed an exclusive agency agreement. A lot of people just don't get the fine print, and it depends on how well the prior agents have, educated them on each topic that we're going over on this new buyer broker services agreement. The onus really is on the agent and the broker to make sure that the buyer understands what they're signing. I think what's going to happen going forward up front, I think that buyer brokers are probably going to have a handful of these buyer broker services agreements already ready to go, and they'll just probably fill them out in ink, right, and have buyers sign them before they go in the home. That's more than likely what's going to happen up front. And then moving forward, hopefully the buyer decides who they want to work with, and they go ahead and they sign a longer term exclusive buyer agency agreement with that broker. All of us brokers, most of us don't feel very comfortable pressuring buyers to sign an agreement. I've never wanted to do that, because I am the kind of person, you make me do something like that and I would just say bye. I'm the worst person to try to go buy a car, for instance. Not that buying cars and real estate are the same thing, but if I walk in there and they start giving me pushback, and I tell them, listen, I want to talk to one person. I don't want any pencils involved. And if they violate that, I walk. I don't want anybody sitting there writing out numbers and trying to play with my head. And to me, that's pressure, right? And so how I translate that into real estate, I don't want to do that same thing to my buyers, where they suddenly feel like they're tied to me, and they're not comfortable with that kind of pressure. So I don't love what we're doing here. I understand the impetus behind it. We're going to take somebody, you're going to take a person that you maybe have never met before through a seller's home. And we don't necessarily even, have a copy of your driver's license, or know, really who you are, right? That how often does it happen when somebody calls you up and says, hey, I'd like to go take a look at a listing? Well, we probably should at the very least have some kind of an agreement, and some kind of documentation that you walked with me through that home. So from that perspective, I really get it. I do. And I think it's a good idea. I mean, any professional that you're going to go see, you're going to be signing some kind of an agreement if they're going to do any work for you at all. I mean, my CPA had me sign an agreement. You go see a chiropractor, they have you sign an agreement. You go anywhere to any professional, and they're all going to have you sign some type of an agreement, because they started working for you. So you have no idea how many times I start working for people, and it doesn't go anywhere. And I'm okay with that. But it is nice to formalize your relationship at a certain point, and I've never done that.
Right.
So, I'm happy to say that I don't feel bad about that. And I also, the other thing that's involved in these new laws is they're encouraging it's to encourage transparency for how we get compensated. And so I've always been very transparent about that, but the state wants to make sure that all buyers understand that the seller is paying the compensation to the buyer's agent. And so what's changed with how the buyer's agent gets paid, or the buyer broker gets paid, is the listing agreement now specifies the listing broker gets X amount. So, 3%. And then the buyer's agent gets X amount. So whatever the seller has decided to offer them, whether it's, 1%, 2%, 3%, I've seen people offer $1, not a good idea. Not my favorite seller if I'm out there showing buyers. And we're having a conversation about that. So, but we've had our SOCs, our selling office compensation published, which is our buyer broker commissions. We've had those published now for over a year. And so buyers all have access to those. They're published everywhere. which, we can have a whole nother conversation about how I feel about that, because I don't necessarily think that people have any business knowing how much money I make, but because nobody else's paycheck gets displayed, And to be fair, it's not how much I make. It actually goes to my brokerage. We get that divvied up, and then we get what's left, and then we pay our bills from that.
Right.
So,
well, I would show my paycheck, but everyone would laugh. So
who shows their paycheck? Whose salaries are disclosed to the public are state workers, federal government workers, right? Because we're paying them with our taxes. So I'm not a state worker. I'm not a government worker. I feel like my privacy is breached by doing this, but I get what they're trying to do. I just find it offensive.
Yeah.
So, I get that, they wanted more transparent, more competition, more transparency within the real estate community. What they don't want is they don't want price fixing. So they don't want a bunch of agents getting together or a chain getting together and saying, hey, we're always going to charge 6%. We're always going to charge 7%, and then divvy that up between the buyer agent and the buyer's broker, however they want. So that's the thing that's the problem. So, and, so as individual real estate brokers, we can charge what our brokers will allow us to, right? Our designated brokers will allow us to, and then also consistent with our own business practice. So for instance, I usually, if I take a listing, it's 6%. And I encourage my seller to offer the buyer's broker 3%, and then I take 3%. And I mean, myself and my office. So, but I provide a professional service, and I go above and beyond what the average broker bear would do. Did you catch that?
The broker bear?
Broker bear. So anyway, that's a conversation about how we get paid. And, we don't love having that conversation, because I would have, I think we all assume that everybody gets paid somehow. But I've always told people that, hey, the seller is the one paying the buyer brokers in the end.
Oh.
So, and it's in the seller's best interest to do that, because they get to decide at that point how much they want to offer the buyer broker. Because if we left it up to buyers, then buyers are going to want to pay as little as possible, but the buyer's agent may not want to, may not be that inspired to work that hard if their buyers are only paying them 2%. Right. I don't know. I mean, I kind of like the system we have, and I like working in it in this way. And I think it benefits sellers, because if the seller suddenly says, hey, we'd like to offer the buyer broker more money, or we'd like to offer the buyer a bonus, which we see pretty often these days, at least in the fall, then the seller has the opportunity to do that.
Right.
So they're not limited to just paying their own listing agent. So I don't mind the system we have. I think it's a working system.
Yeah. Well, it's probably there's some little bit of pain when you first start off in this new system, and then, people get used to it.
Yeah, I've already been down that road. I've already gotten through, I think it was on the 3rd of January, I was writing an offer and went over it with my investor. And, I told him flat out, if they're not offering compensation, I'm not showing you that property. If you want to see that, if you see a for sale by owner, or if you want to see property that doesn't have compensation included by the seller, then we can do that, but we'll have a separate conversation about how I'll be compensated. And he's like, I wouldn't expect you to show me properties that weren't offering you compensation. He's like, obviously you have to earn a living. And I'm like, yep, that's pretty much it. I mean, this is what I do for work, you guys. So, anyway, it's interesting. It's a conversation that none of us really want to have, because no one wants to talk about, where they get paid, when they get paid. I don't ever focus on that myself. For me, I just work, right? And I assume at the end of the day, I'll make enough money to survive. And so it's not ever a conversation that I normally will have with my buyers, unless the offer of compensation from the seller is so low that I feel That's just
Well,
not.
I just threw up the seller brokerage services agreement on the screen. I've had
Yeah,
some
thanks.
updates
Yeah,
there.
so that's an example of the new buyer broker services agreement. So I'm including that in this week's Stats by Cat. So if you receive that blog that I email out every week, you'll have a copy of that and you'll be able to kind of go through that.
Okay. Well, speaking of Stats by Cat, wait a second. What do we have here? We have Stats by Cat. There we go.
Well, how about that?
How do you? Good. My goodness.
I have a black cat. No.
There we go. Well, let's go down here. King County market time. It looks like you updated a few things here. Did you?
No, that's June 20th through October 19th. I am going to update that because I'd like to pull the data for how much market time costs sellers. So, if you're on the market 0 to 7 days, you're going to sell for X, right? So the example here was June 20th through October 19th in King County. And if you sold, the first 7 days on the market, you got an average of $516 per square foot. Right. And so if it took you 8 to 14 days to get under contract, you only got $487 per square foot. And that cost you 5.6%. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to take the data from, let's say, September through December and come up with the same statistics. I'd like to see what that looks like as we move into the fall. So because those numbers are primarily summer, reflective of summer. So I'd like to see how that goes. But if you were on the market 31 to 90 days, again, June 20th through October 19th, it cost you 8.9%. And that's $470 per square foot. But if you equate that to an average sales price, I think it was average sales price is $1,126,000 and change. That would have cost you over $100,000 if you were on the market 61 to 90 days. It could have cost you. That's an average of what it would cost you. So I love those numbers because I need that data to show my sellers. I need them to understand that as you're on the market longer, your actual average price per square foot is going to go down. And so the data doesn't lie. It's like this for, I've run these numbers for Snohomish County and King County, and they're consistent. Sometimes it's a little worse in one county than the other. But I would assume that when I run the next season, fall into early winter, that it's going to be very reflective. It could be either more extreme or less extreme. We'll just have to see what that looks like. But I love this kind of data. It's what makes me get up early in the morning. I'm not kidding. I love it. So so we'll go over that. I'll try to have that for next week.
Okay. Well, let's see. Moving on here, we're looking to the next slide, which is how to buy a home in King County for almost 13% less. 13% less.
Yeah. So so let's talk about another set of data. Actually, let me change my shirt. I really want my videos to get seen, and they pass me by when I wear the same thing all the time, like I'm batch filming. Hi guys. Hi Komen. Let's see, Gary. Hi Gary. Who else is on? DLC. Hi guys. Okay, I'm just gonna change my shirt. Don't look. Sorry, Dan. I'm up to my old tricks.
That's okay.
Well, I made so many videos from the last one we did, and I had that pink sweater on. Even though I had some kind of take off on TikTok, I felt like I got a lot fewer views on Facebook. Just because it was, I was wearing the same thing. You come on every morning and you got the same thing on. It's just people think they're seeing the same video. So anyway, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. All right.
So we have a wardrobe change.
Sorry. Yep. Had to do a wardrobe change, guys.
Okay, here we are. We're back. We're back.
We're back.
And we're looking at King County intra-year appreciation. Again, this is like if you buy in January, sell in June, or basically buy in December, sell in May for the most part.
So what it is it's the difference between the average price per square foot in January closings versus June closings for King County. So I like these numbers because it shows that the prices in January are lower consistently than the prices in June. And what that shows me when I take that swing is how much the market goes up from January to June, which reflects December negotiations and May negotiations. So it's essentially from negotiating in December to negotiating in May. So it's an average. So for the last 12 years, it's an average of 12.7%, which I think is phenomenal. So that's just an average. But if you're looking at this data here, you can see every single year that June data is higher than January data. Every single year, right, Dan? I mean, it's an obvious.
Every single year. I was
Every
just looking
single
at
year
that.
for 12 years straight. Now you can go back a few more years, and
You
it's
know
not
what
going to change. It doesn't change that much. But I wanted to take the years of growth because we're still in that phase. We're still in a growth phase.
Right.
We really are. I mean, even last year we were in a growth phase. This year we're still in a growth phase. So the difference between January and June is remarkable. And the reason I like to talk about it is because this is what buyers are looking at, right?
Yeah.
So you can jump out in the market in January and try to get yourself a home. You're probably going to save yourself an average of 12.7% if you manage to negotiate something in December or January. Now you get into February, March, you're going to start you're headed towards the peak of the market. So with the absolute peak being in May. Right. So, you're going to be kind of in the middle of that. So you'll probably have an extra 5 or 6% that you're paying. And depending on the negotiation, you might end up, for $1 million house, you might end up 150 over by March. Right. If it's a serious competition. So we saw that many times over the last couple of years. So even this past year, not too bad. It wasn't as bad.
I'm just keeping my ear to the ground, hearing a few things down here in the Renton and Kent area. And I got to tell you, last weekend was crazy. There were some open houses they're having. I'm not making this up. They were having like 100 to 120 people going through these open houses. It was nuts. They've already got multiple offers on these houses. The thing was, on the after they opened it up, I'm thinking of one in particular, and it started at like $799, and it ended up at like $845 or something like that. And that was just it's kind of crazy. I'm just saying it's crazy because it's January, right? You don't.
Well, and we're just now getting to mid-January. And remember what I've said before is that like last year it started the first weekend in January, essentially like 7 days in, and this year it seems to be starting that second week, because this whole last week it was starting to pop,
right?
And so I feel like it's happening again, kind of like it did last year. In the normal year, normally I see it around the third week of January, but it definitely starts before the end, and almost every year. And I think what you can see from this graphic here is that you can clearly see that prices do increase every single year by June. Yeah. So we're not likely to see homes go down in price between now and June. It just doesn't normally happen. There would have to be something catastrophic, or interest rates would have to go up dramatically. There's just more buyer demand in the spring than there is in the fall and in the fall. I'm going to limit it to fall because winter started December 21st, and dang, I'm strong.
I'm going to stick my neck out here, and I might tarnish my reputation of getting all of my predictions wrong. I might get one right here. But it sure as heck looks like rates are going to continue to come down, right?
I sure hear that a lot. So I'm, fingers crossed that happens to a small degree. I don't want to see them come down too far. I think it's going to create a run on the market, and it's going to be very difficult for buyers to get into homes. We'll see prices skyrocket. Right. It could get very ugly very quickly. So I would love it if they would stay kind of where they're at. I'd like it, I'd like maybe in a couple of years they come down to 5% so everybody can refinance. But
Oh
But
gosh.
keeping it a little more even market, it's going to give buyers a better opportunity to get a more fair price and keep prices from escalating too quickly. The fact that we saw modest appreciation this last year, I think, is because we saw increasing interest rates over the year. But
Hmm.
even with increase in interest rates, we still saw modest appreciation. And modest,
Yeah.
if 7% is modest,
Yeah.
right?
That's
So,
with the
I love 7%.
yeah. That's
I mean, if you own property, there's nothing wrong with that,
that's
you
right.
know.
And
So
this is the
if we
same
see it,
chart.
if we do see interest rates go down, Dan,
Hmm.
that we will see housing prices skyrocket.
Yeah.
It's a
Well,
fact.
yeah. It's
There's no way around that.
well. Hopefully, I
Just-
have. I'm just gonna say. I'm just gonna put this out here because I think the way it would probably work itself out, but we'll see. I do think if interest rates get down low enough that you're going to start to see, and you get this rush of buyers to begin with, I do think you'll see more sellers
but
putting
those
those.
will be local. So what will happen is those will be local sellers. So as they become sellers, they'll also become buyers. So it's
Right.
not going to ease the pool of buyers. And
Well, that's
so
true.
it's that, you know what I mean? The balance isn't going
Yeah,
to change.
yeah, that's a good point.
Because every time a seller comes on the market, they also turn into a buyer. So it's not going to ease the pressure. All that it will do is give buyers more choices. But I think that there'll be just more buyers buying for the same properties.
Yeah, yeah,
So, it would be nice if we didn't have such steep interest rate increases over the past 2 years. That would have been a really nice thing to moderate that a tad. But so we wouldn't have seen that, the huge incline in pricing, increase in pricing in 2022, and then the steep fallout at the last 6 months of that year where we had a 25, we lost like 25% ish. And
right.
then turning around, getting right into 2023 and starting to see that appreciation again. And even in a climate of ever increasing interest rates. I mean, let's face it, interest rates went up until October.
Right. Yeah.
There really wasn't much relief. And even with that, at one point, King County was up 22% from January.
It really is quite
I
remarkable.
mean, you think about that for a second. They didn't wind up at 22% at the end of the year, but those buyers that bought in the spring actually overpaid quite a bit, right? Because
Mhm.
prices came back down. So when you think about that, it's going to take a few years for them to catch up. The buyers that bought at the peak of the market last year. So that we're talking 2023 when interest rates were already high. So you have to remember that these bidding wars are causing people to overpay. So, I
Right.
like to call it buying into the market. If you're at that point in the market where you have to have a house, there may be a fee that you're going to pay, which is over asking price, to actually be able to get yourself into a home. And
Right.
then the home may not appraise,
It,
right?
I will tell you what is interesting for me right now, right? Is that we've been doing these live
Hey,
streams.
Marcia.
Oh,
Sorry, Dan.
it's all right.
Hey,
Well,
Marcia.
we've been
I have to
doing
say hi
these,
to my people.
but
I'm
we've been
trying to
doing
look every once in a while to see who joins.
we've been doing these live streams since June, and we know every week, right? So it's been going along. And one thing you notice is that back in like October, November, you had a little flexibility with the pricing, maybe some seller concessions. And this is not just hearsay, right? We've been talking about this thing every week. So,
Yep.
you know, and that back in November, you had plenty of, a little bit of cushion in some of these deals. And now
I
all of a
was trying
sudden,
to tell
boom.
buyers to jump in the market in the fall. You heard me.
Yeah. I mean,
I hate,
it
I hate
just
to say it. The heyday is almost over. You got a couple weeks.
it's almost like the guy from the Indianapolis 500 gets on the announcer and says, "Gentlemen, start your engines," and then all of a sudden they're all going huckly buck, going after not much inventory right now. So I just find it very interesting how quickly
Yeah.
the whole market changed because it does look
Well,
like it changed quite a bit.
and I kind of have a tendency to believe in the normal real estate market cycles.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I'm talking and I'm giving people advice about when they should buy, or what that looks like going forward, I'm simply looking at what's happening with interest rates and looking at what's happening with market dynamics, and applying what a normal real estate market cycle looks like. So we usually see prices soften a tad in the fall. If you have interest rates suddenly come down like we did this last fall, you don't see as much loosening up of pricing. The pricing stays fairly high.
Right.
And we did see builders that were finishing out their plats offer incredible incentives. None of my buyers took advantage of that, I'm disappointed to say, because I'm sure that those are vanishing. I haven't looked the last couple of weeks, but and there were some buyers over the last couple of months that waited for houses to be on the market 30 days or more, and then you were able to negotiate a pretty good discount. I have some buyers that were able to do that, and we got some really good values. I always like to call it values, not deals. We got some really good values for my buyers this fall, which was incredible. That made me feel very good as an agent. Yeah, they paid the 8% interest rate, but they can refinance that going forward. But it's better to buy the house at a lower price, so that when you do refinance it, you're refinancing a lower portion, a lower amount.
Yeah,
So it's hard to say that out loud because it feels bad to pay 8.5% like people had to do third week of October. But the thing of it is that if you got a better value, if you paid less for the home because interest rates were that high, later on down the road, you get to refinance a smaller balance. So if that same home were on the market and interest rates were at 7%, that home would have sold for a lot more money. Guarantee you. So that's market dynamics, right? So I don't like to see people having to get stuck into like the higher interest rate loans. But again, if it's for a lower amount of money, a lesser amount of money, then you can refinance that, and your payment will be lower in the end because of it.
That's right. Yeah.
I had a lot of clients that bought in 2021 and that had 3%, 4% interest rates, and they overpaid for the homes, and they're fine because we've had appreciation since then, believe it or not. But the truth is that one, they're not going to refinance because they already got a low interest rate, but they may have paid less for that home the end of 2022, right? But the truth is, you have to buy a house when you need to buy a house. That's the truth. But if you do have a span of time, or you start feeling bad because interest rates went up since you started looking, you also have to consider that prices will come down. You're going to be able to negotiate a little more.
Right.
So as bad as that higher interest rate feels, that's the thing that allows you to get the better price. So it's a good tool. I hate to say it, guys. I know it feels bad, but it does work though. You do get a better value. And I know everybody feels bad walking away from that 3 months later and having interest rates back down 1.5 from where they were when they purchased. But the truth is that you will be able to refinance that.
Well, and
you paid less. I just want to emphasize, for you people, for my buyers that bought this fall, you paid less than you would if the interest rates were higher. And I'm very happy for you guys. You have no idea.
Well, the thing is, we were talking about this all last year, basically, right? Is that exactly how it played out for the most part? And so, the strategies of what to do in a rising interest rate market, well, we've seen how that played out. And I got to tell you, I feel, who I feel bad for? And I hate to say this, but there aren't going to be that many people watching, so I can say this.
Go ahead, Dan. I give you free reign.
Okay. So I feel really bad for that builder that spent like $40,000 on.
You never even got that unit sold.
Oh,
still on the market.
I sure hope he's not on.
He had it under contract. It's back on the market. I don't think they're offering the specials anymore.
Yeah.
I saw the listing. Yeah, I feel really bad. He just wanted to get that plat closed out. And I thought the unit, the one that they were selling it had the option of having a small business on the main floor, or it could be used as a bedroom.
Oh, okay.
It had these high ceilings, and it was a glass storefront with a door that went out to the street. And you could just imagine using that as a bedroom, and it had its own bathroom. So you could have a wall of curtains there, and then you could open it and people watch, or you could put one way, what do you call that, film on your window so that you could see out, no one could see in,
You can put it, you can put
watch.
it,
I don't know. It just it was just appealing to me because I thought you could also rent that out to like a tax accountant or another small business and, have a little bit of income there, and they would not be impacting your lifestyle because they would only be there during the day. I mean, I just saw so much potential. And so it made me feel bad because I actually took a look at that unit.
I
And
remember.
it was lovely. It was really, and it had a 2-car garage.
Yeah.
Attached to a
Oh, wait.
garage. It was really cool. It was just a very nice floor plan.
Well, that's good. Hey, on this note,
Yes, Dan.
on this note,
What do you need, Dan?
you mind if we move over? Can we move on to that investment property analysis over in Bremerton? I think it's Bremerton.
Hi, Flowers. Hi, Frank. Hi, guys. Who else is down there? Let's see. I'm trying to see. Sorry, I'm looking behind my computer here. I can't read the last one down there. Something Ethan or yeah. Anyway. Hi, guys. Thanks for joining. Okay. Dan Mellis is with us here. I'm Kat Howard with Windermere in Woodinville, talking all things real estate with Dan Mellis with Nexa Mortgage. And he's my guy, my clients. He takes really good care of my clients. So he's he's sworn to abolish poverty. And so that's how my clients get such good interest rates.
Yes, that's correct.
Sorry, I shared your secret, Dan.
I think I might put that on like a catchphrase on my business card. I've taken a vow of poverty.
I'm pretty sure you've got it out there somewhere.
Yeah. So
anyway,
but I do think on this, it's very interesting, this investment property that you sent over, because I ran it through a little machine. And so let's start off here with this first. Just take a look at the screen there if you could. This is what you sent me, and then we'll flip over to the other.
Yeah, I'm trying to find my paper.
Okay. Well,
it might be a little easier for me to read my paper than his screen. Even though I got peepers on, the screen is just too little. Am I revealing my age a little bit? Sorry.
Well, this is
there's a lot of wisdom.
This is a triplex over in Bremerton, right? Bremerton.
Yeah, it's on Elizabeth Avenue, and I've had my eye on this one for I believe a couple months now. Right, Dan? We've been talking about this one.
Yes, we have been talking about this one, and it's still available.
It is still available. So let me give you guys a little bit of history. And I don't know, I have not talked to the listing agent about this, but it looks to me like the current owners purchased it for approximately $480,000 almost 2 years ago. I think it was April 2022. And for $480,000. And the rents that they were getting at the time were significantly less than what they're getting now. But it looks like the prior owner had done a lot of updating. So it had the modern flooring in it. It looked like maybe the kitchens had been redone, some of the bathrooms. And so it looks like some of the updating had already been done. And then now this new owner takes over, and it looks to me like, and I could be way off base here, but from what I can tell on paper is that it looks like they just raise rents. And I mean,
old school, baby. Old school.
So it feels a little uncomfortable, but it's shrewd, right? So it's a shrewd move. Because if you're only getting, half or 2/3 of what you should be getting in rents, it's really tough to ask for what you should, what market value would be as what you would charge if you were getting market value rents. And so it seems fair to me that they would have sold it for less than maybe what it was worth back then. Maybe not realizing what market value rents were, because they were getting, just over 1,000, I think, for each unit, which seems to me paltry. Even 2 years ago. And so I think
it kind of does go to show, though, if you're thinking of selling your investment property, you might want to,
jack the rents.
Yeah.
So So the deal is if you're going to sell an investment property, you do want your rents to be near market value, and you do have to consider what the interior is finished like, right? What is that property actually worth market value as far as rents go? Like this one, for instance, they're charging $1,850 a month for a 1-bedroom, $1,850 a month for a 2-bedroom, and they're charging $2,100 for the 3-bedroom. I can't remember. Does this one? I don't feel like this one has washer dryers.
I don't think so.
I can't remember. I don't think it does. And for me, that's kind of a big deal. I think when I'm advising my investors, I really like the units to have washer dryers because I think it encourages a tenant to stay longer. And the same to be said with a 1-bedroom. I don't love 1-bedroom units. So like there's a duplex that just got listed today. I think it was 375-ish over in Bremerton. I ran the numbers. It just doesn't even come close to penciling. And the rents do look a tad under market. I'm sure that it needs some updating, but the way they have it listed, it's not anywhere near. I couldn't even make it pencil at 300. I think I even took it down to 275. It just doesn't. And so, the problem is when you have in areas like Bremerton and Grays Harbor, the seller is responsible a lot of the times for the water, sewer, and garbage. And that can be a huge expense to the tune of thousands of dollars a year. And that really takes away from your bottom line. And you have to take that into consideration when you're running it through the cash flow analysis.
Right.
Right. So when you're running the calculations. So I will say back to Elizabeth. So, Elizabeth almost cash flows at their asking price of $675. $650, it looks a little better. $625, it looks better yet. I think you'd be okay at $625. I like it best at $600. So that still gives them $120 minus their selling costs. I don't think, again, they put anything into it.
Let's take a look at what it looks like as far as the return is concerned. We'll bring up
at the purchase price of $600, right? So that's what we're looking at here. So listed at $675, and we are really not loving it at $675. So we're making an offer less than that. Not that we would get it accepted at this point, but we can always dream. So this is the dream, guys.
This is the dream, living the dream. So if it did come in at $600.
So what's that make the payment? What's that make the payment, Dan?
Puts let's see here. Principal and interest for the full year.
I dropped mine actually. Hold on. I'm trying to find it. I dropped my paper. Let's see, where's it? Mr. Fat Tuesday. Where's mommy paper? I've been almost all here it is. Okay, so the payment, let's see, did I write that? So the payment, do I have a payment on here?
Well, I've got principal and interest. I have to do some quick calculations. It's about $3,500 a month, $42,265 for the year for your payment and interest. And then you got $7,900 in property taxes and insurance. So that's that's going to be about what, $650 a month.
I can't believe I don't have that on there. Where's my phone? I can't use my phone to do the calculation. I was going to use my HP.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that's kind of interesting.
Calculator to tell you what the payment is, because I had it, but I didn't write it down.
Right. And
I feel like it was like $3,200. You can see. Let's see. I don't have it on here. I can't believe I don't have it on here. I always have that on there.
It's about, I think it's $3,500. And then, but anyway, cash flows from year one, basically, if at 600.
It does. So the pre-tax cash flow is $7,752, and I'll tell you what I did. I included for expenses. I included property taxes, right? So this is stuff that you want to be investors want to consider, right? So for expenses, we include property taxes, property insurance of $1,000. So taxes on this one were $4,095. Mr. Fat Tuesday, you don't look like an investor to me. You can't join in, little buddy. So property management, you guys, I always include property management in my calculations. So if you're looking for something to cash flow, you have to include property management because you're going to want to hire a property manager to handle your investment properties. It's a smart thing to do in Washington State. You have to take my word for that. I can explain that more later. So $6,960 a year. So that's 10% of gross receipts, right?
Okay.
For rent.
Right. Okay.
Your annual gross income is a 69,600 on this particular property. And so repairs and maintenance, I don't like to go too light on that. So I've been using 2,400 for most of the properties that I've been analyzing. That's $200 a month. If you don't have to do anything for a year, great. But if you got to replace a couple of washers or a couple of hot water tanks the next year, then you're going to be covered.
Right.
And then water, sewer, garbage on this one is $4,140. And then they have other of 150. I don't know what that's about. No, don't. He's a paper shredder. Mr. Fat Tuesday is a paper shredder. He's trying to shred my documents that I had prepared for the show. Mister, don't stop, little buddy. So I also calculated 5% vacancy. I don't always calculate 5% vacancy. A lot of times if it's a 2 or 3 plex, I'll take half of 1 month's rent and use that, assuming that one unit turns over every 2 years. We have such a backlog. Our vacancy rates in Washington in this area, Western Washington, are pretty low. But the thing that's not considered, one of the things I don't include in my calculations when I'm calculating cash flow, is I don't include the cost to re-rent the unit. Depending on the property management company, they often will charge half a month's rent to get that unit re-rented. Some property management companies will charge you an annual release fee. Mine does on the east side. But I know that in Grays Harbor, that's not a practice. I don't know. I think in Bremerton, that's not really a practice either. It's just if you have a unit come empty. And I think they can get those filled fairly quickly. So you're not going to have really much of a loss of rents, but you might have a half a month's, charge for property management to get that released. So, but I wanted to mention that. So your total expenses for this particular property is $18,745. Your NOI, so your total gross income is $69,600, adding up all the rents for all 3 units for the year. Your total expenses $18,745. Your vacancy rate is 30. Your total vacancy is $3,480. So your net operating income is $47,375. Your annual debt. So then you subtract out your annual debt service. So what you're paying for the loan, right? That's the total for 12 months is $39,623. So your pre-tax cash flow is $7,752. I like it at $600,000. I don't love it at $675,000. I think that's too much. So your after-tax cash flow is, so if you're in a tax, so now this takes into account the percent of the property that's actually improved versus the unimproved portion, and it takes into account depreciation. So, spread over 27.5 years, or I think that's what it is. And so calculated in depreciation, and if you're in a tax bracket of 20%, that's total, your cash flow is going to improve to be $9,143 right out the gate first year. So I don't mind those numbers. It gets a lot more attractive to me.
Right.
It is something where a buyer could come in, a first-time home buyer could come in and live in one of the units. And sometimes you can justify the higher pricing that way. And I think some of these duplexes and triplexes and fourplexes that are on the market right now are thinking in those terms. But there's just not that many buyers that want to live in a multifamily property, or that are thinking in terms of that. And that's really, because if you do think in terms of that, then you can justify higher pricing. But if you're just a regular investor that you kind of need to be sort of hands off, this is just, going to be something that hopefully you're not a slumlord.
Right.
But at the same time, you're not planning on dumping a lot of capital into it in the next 5 years. So it's just something that's hopefully you're going to gain some wealth from appreciation and general market appreciation, as well as being able to increase rents over time.
Right.
Conservatively speaking, when I run numbers on these sorts of things, these sorts of investments, I'm looking at 3.5% appreciation per year over 4 years. And I don't know how accurate that'll be, but I figure that's fairly conservative.
Well, I know.
I'm also trying to reach a return of 8%. Those are my goals, because I figure it's pretty easy to get 5% and just go out and buy a CD,
Well,
CD or something.
it is interesting because I brought up the second page here of the property analyzer, and it does give you over 10 years a 19.8% rate, average rate of return. That's pretty good.
It does. I ran the numbers. I don't have them in front of me, but I actually put together a file on this one because I think I might shoot it over to some of my investor clients. I have several now.
Right.
Mr. Fat Tuesday, do we really have to yell right now? Do we really have to?
Yes.
You want to get on the show? Come here. You want to be on TV? Come here.
He's getting hungry.
You're hungry boy. He's so hungry. This is Mr. Fat Tuesday. He's a boy. Mm-hmm. This is my sidekick. We're going to Bellingham to go show houses on Sunday.
Oh, nice.
We've got a new client in Bellingham. It's parents of a friend of mine. I sold her house 4 or 5 years ago. We've since become friends, and her parents are looking to not necessarily, sort of downsize. They're really looking for something in town in a level area so that he could ride his bike and go wherever he wants to go, because he's to the point where he can't drive. Right. And so he would like to be able to see his friends and exercise, because they are very in shape, just like their daughter. And so he'd like to be able to go to the coffee shop at will and be able to ride his bike around and get wherever he wants to go in Bellingham fairly easily, and work out at the gym and do all the things that they love to do. And she likes to garden, so they might even hang on to the house they've got now, so they might have 2 houses in Bellingham. So, which is great. You're retired, you can do anything you want, right?
Well, so it's really nice to have a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday house and a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday house.
Exactly. He can go visit her. She can come visit him. They live close by. I think it's perfect. If you must know, I might be able to be married if it was like that kind of an arrangement.
Well, remember.
I'm sorry, that was terrible.
Do you remember Seinfeld?
I do.
Yeah. Remember that episode where they say, well, you need a buffer. You need a buffer between Seinfeld and Seinfeld's parents down in Florida. He says, you need a buffer.
Oh, that's right.
So, if you don't want to live in the same house, but you want to stay married, you need a buffer,
You sent them down to Boca Raton. Isn't that where they were? That place they were looking at, those condos.
Del Boca Vista, yes.
Oh, my God. I saw the other day on TV, there was they were just going over, like, it was a review of the show essentially and how it got started, and it was a review of the whole series, and it was they were interviewing the actors after the fact, and marveling at the success of the show and how it kind of went like in steps, and it was interesting. I watched the whole thing, and I don't watch TV. I'll binge watch certain things, but I don't watch like just TV shows. So I ran into that, and I actually had me hooked, because I love Seinfeld. I think that it was a masterpiece. Yeah, there's a lot of things I really loved about it. I didn't know the show got sold the last year to somebody else. It was a different writer than Larry David, and so I guess that changed things a little bit, made it more challenging. And I guess Elaine and what was his name? George, I think they got a piece of the show because their contracts came up for renewal. So I think that last year they got a piece of the show. Some things, just some things changed, but I just thought it was an incredible dynamic.
Yeah, it was.
Incredible dynamic. I mean, I was going to do a shout out today, Dan. Do you mind if I do that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh my God. Okay, I have to tell you guys. So I had the best Christmas ever. Okay, so I celebrated Christmas the Friday before Christmas because my kids were going to Canada to celebrate Christmas with his folks up in BC. So Lake Okanagan. So anyway, I had the grandkids and my daughter and son-in-law over on Friday. And I ended up taking them ice skating at that pop-up ice skating rink at the Everett Marina. And I have to tell you guys, that was the funnest thing ever. Now, I did not get on ice skates because I don't want to break anything, you know. I just watched my daughter out there falling, and I was like having a heart attack. I had to leave. I took the two dogs for a walk while they all ice skated because I couldn't take watching my own flesh and blood fall. You know, I was like, "Oh my God, honey, stop falling!" Anyway, but her husband, he used to play ice hockey up in Canada, so he was doing circles around everybody. I mean, and then the kids. So at this ice rink, that's only there for a couple of months a year. Down there by the Jetty restaurant, the Indigo Hotel, they put up a temporary ice rink. I think it's sponsored by Raritan's, the auto dealership. Anyway, so they've got these little rigs that kids can push around, like made out of PVC pipe, and kind of keep themselves held up while they ice skate so they don't fall down all the time. So my 3 grandkids, ages 4 to 8, were out there just having the time of their life for like $20 each for an hour. No broken bones, no blood. I mean, it was amazing. And the 2 dogs, Bodie and Mr. Fat Tuesday, got a little exercise. Grandma thought she lost her glasses. I thought I lost my expensive sunglasses. Didn't happen. Found them a couple days later, so no loss there. But we turned around from there. It was so much fun. The kids were hopefully wore out. We went to the Muse, which is out at the Everett Marina. And the Muse is the old Weyerhaeuser office building that they had sitting on the corner there with Lombardi's, just kind of waiting for its final destination. And they finally relocated it a couple of years ago down there, not too far from where the old yacht club is. It's still there, but they're tearing it down for another new hotel. I love the Everett Marina. They're doing amazing things out there. But anyway, the Muse. So they took this Weyerhaeuser building. This businessman had an idea, said, I'd like to put in a whiskey coffee bar there. What do you guys think? He asked the port, and there was a whole article about his negotiations with the port, and they were 100% on board. And so they allowed this historic building to be brought back to life. The walls inside are, a lot of them are this dark navy blue, which is just incredible. The ceilings are like 10, 12 foot high. The windows are enormous, and they've got, what looks to be original wood casings. And the floors look original. I believe they are the original hardwood. The safe, the old safe that used to be there, is now a wine safe. It's amazing. The bathrooms, oh my gosh. So again, with the 10, 12 foot ceilings and the navy blue, they had the countertops in there were a black quartz with white veining. It was just elegant. And the floors had gold inlay, like all throughout this marble floor. It's gorgeous. It's just drop dead gorgeous, feels luxurious. The lighting over the counter there, the sinks, were pendant lighting that came down, and that there were tubes, these gold tubes that were about 18 inches tall, and a little light comes out the bottom of it. The light just shines out the bottom. It's just beautiful, just well done, really well done. Anyway, and then as you're walking back through, because you have to tour this place, right? You can't go there and then not walk around. You have to walk around. It's just amazing. There's tapestries on the wall. They're not even tapestries. They're embroidered fabric, fine embroidered fabric. So there's this one that's got this wall of flowers as you're walking towards the restroom. You touch, it's fabric. Oh my gosh, it's just amazing. So you keep going down that hallway past the restrooms, and you can see there's a bar. And you're trying to figure out how the heck do you get to this bar, because you can't access it from that hallway. So I go around back to the front desk, and I'm like, how do you get to it looks like there's a bar back there. And I was like, wasn't sure if it was like a private area or what. And she's like, oh no, you go through this door over here. So it's the old office door for, I think it was either the president of Weyerhaeuser, but anyway, it's got frosted glass on it, just like you would imagine an old 120-year-old office door would have frosted glass with the guy's name or the president of Weyerhaeuser, whatever it says on there. You open that door, it goes into the bar. A big bar with a variety of seating, not just like bar stools, but they've got a bunch of love seats in there and coffee tables. It's very elegant and eclectic. Just neat. Really cool. and they have all these individual rooms throughout. So I brought my grandkids, and I think they were trying to discourage us when we first came in there, and they said, 95% of the menu is alcohol, but they do have some food there. They have a charcuterie tray. I know. Well, and I wasn't, my daughter and I, we wanted to sit down. We wanted to try this place, right? They're over here from Kingston. I really wanted all of us to try it together.
Well, I was just wondering, when they say 95% is for alcohol, I don't know if they're trying to encourage or discourage at that point.
Yeah. So they do have food though. They have charcuterie trays. They have or plates. They have
it's good food.
Hawaiian chicken skewer, I believe. It's got pineapple and chicken on it. They've got some other things too that I thought sounded, some lamb. They had other things on the menu there that I thought sounded really good. They've got a salad. Right. Anyway, they're, small food items. They're not full plates of food. They're more like appetizer type foods that I found very appealing. So, but we just had a drink and a charcuterie board, and we annihilated that charcuterie board. But I have to tell you, we were in a little room, and it had 6 chairs, and they were all, had sides, and they were soft chairs, right?
Yeah.
A couple of them spun. I always have the spinny chair if there's a spinny chair, because I like to spin. But it was just very comfortable, and they moved us all together. They moved the chairs around and a couple tables together, because there were just smaller tables in there to put your drinks on. So it wasn't like a regular dining room area. They did have a dining room area with the big fireplace that had regular table and chairs. But a lot of these little side rooms just had more like what you would imagine side chairs in like a, fancy cocktail lounge.
It kind of almost sounds like
Pushy.
What did they used to have in a speakeasy from the 1920s or 30s or something?
And I think that's sort of what they were trying to echo.
Mm-hmm.
Is sort of a speakeasy feeling. And so each room was individual. And so the sound, interestingly enough, stayed pretty much within the rooms, even though there were doors on either side to the other rooms. Right. But it was amazing, because I don't think that the grandkids really disrupted other people's,
good time. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they were disruptive at all. We couldn't even hear what other people in the next room were saying. So it's cool.
Great.
Anyway, it's worth mentioning, because the Muse it's fabulous. It's fabulous.
And that was that's up in Everett, right? The Muse.
It is at the Everett Marina, and it just opened a couple months ago. And they talk about their dinner service. Again, it's not, they don't have a lot of food items, but I think what they do have is probably amazing.
Mm-hmm. And the drinks are pretty good.
The drinks are fabulous. My daughter had a chocolate martini.
Oh, nice.
He could not, it was an espresso martini. Sorry, espresso martini. And I think it was chocolate espresso martini. He couldn't shut up about it. It was apparently it was that good. Everybody liked their whiskey drinks, and it was fun.
Next time you go, can I give you a suggestion on what to bring?
Sure.
Okay. You should bring that little bottle that you had with the sprinklies. You should
my edible glitter.
Yes, put it in your purse, and then when you have like the chocolate martinis and the espresso shots and all that stuff, just break out the little sprinklies, couple quick shakes, and there you go. I think it'd be very cool.
Yep.
So and plus if the grandkids, I don't know, maybe they have this at this place, but maybe they have like chocolate milk. Right, so or something like that, for they can have like a kid's cocktail, right? So they have maybe chocolate milk or something like that. Then you can break out the sprinklies and put it on top of the chocolate milk.
They did, they had soda.
Did they? Yeah,
they did. They had soda. They had stuff for kids. They don't advertise a kid's menu, of course.
Right.
And they don't have technically a kid's menu, but they have stuff for kids, and they have plastic cups and stuff, and so you can bring your younger kids in there and. It's okay.
Well, I gotta tell you, I remember when I was a kid, right? Sorry to be babbling on.
No, you can no.
So
it's called the Cat and Dan show. You're the Dan part.
So we used to. I should put this picture up one of these days when we have this. But we used to go to Modesto all the time, because my dad's family from Modesto. We lived in Stockton, right? So we go down to Modesto, and you go to this restaurant that was in the middle of town, like in Kirkland. if there's a restaurant you would know, I mean, there are a lot of nice restaurants, but Kirkland's kind of known for Hector's, right? Hector's,
Oh,
right?
I love Hector's.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love Hector's. Oh,
And it's like really good food. And that's where the business guys get, how much business has been conducted in Hector's? Probably a lot, right?
yeah, yeah.
And so down in Modesto, the Modesto version from the 1960s and 70s of Hector's was this restaurant called the Sundial, right? And so we go to the Sundial when I was a kid, right? I'd be like 4 years old or something like that. We go down to Modesto every Wednesday, and I tell you, there was just such thrill because I would order either a Shirley Temple when I was, I thought I was really important. I was ordering a drink like the adults, Shirley Temple, but then I stepped it up when I figured they told me I could order a Roy Rogers, and so I got the Coca-Cola instead of the 7-Up. Oh, I love that Roy Rogers. It's delicious. So anyway, that's my entire story right there.
That was the whole story?
That's the whole story. Well, there is no. All right, I'll tell you another part, and I didn't bring pictures to back it up, but it's true. So my uncle ran this. He was one of the founders of this a sports club. It was called the SOS Club, the Sportsmen of Stanislaus, right? And so he would invite all of these sports figures that were going through the Bay Area over the years. He was in charge of procuring the athletes to come in and have like a night, right? So they would have like a Kenny Stabler night, or so when I'm 7, they have a Willie Mays and Willie McCovey night, right? So Willie Mays and Willie McCovey night, my uncle knows them both, right? Brings them in. Well, McCovey always shows up on time, right? Willie Mays is a little bit, he doesn't really show up on time like he's, So anyway, McCovey's there. Mays hasn't shown up yet. The function is about to start in like an hour and a half. So my uncle pawns me off on McCovey. I'm like 7 when this is all going on, right?
Oh
So he pawns me off, says, "Here, you wait right here, Willie. You sit here." And so me and Willie McCovey, this is MVP season. We're sitting there for about a half hour for Willie Mays to show up, and we're just sitting there talking and drinking. So I'm drinking a Roy Rogers with Willie McCovey right there, and we're talking baseball. And I'm following him, so we're having a good conversation. I said, "Boy, you sure had a great year. This was his MVP year." And he's asking me about well, do you play baseball? He's been very polite about things, right? Great guy. So he's so I'm like, "Oh yeah, I play for the Twins." "Oh, that's very nice." The Stockton Twins or whatever we were. So I play for the Twins, and I hit 645, or you're playing. Back then they didn't have T-ball, but it was like the lowest level. And so here this guy is. He's the MVP of the National League that year, and he's sitting here legitimately listening to some 7-year-old kid talking about his baseball exploits. I thought it was pretty funny looking back on it.
That's great. That's a good story. Hey, you know what? I have another shout out. I'm not sure if you heard, Dan, you probably have. I think everybody has at this point, that the Seahawks fired Pete Carroll, which I was shocked and dismayed, disappointed, horrified. I feel like all my institutions that I count on in this area, including Molbach's going under, is just killing my core. Like, I love this area, and I'm losing things that I love about it. Molbach's should not have been forced out by the new developers, Green Partners. They did a presentation to the Woodinville Chamber of Commerce last year. I was there, and Molbach's was front and center of that project. And they had drawings, architectural drawings. They put together a big presentation, which I have, a PowerPoint presentation, which I actually have. It's disgusting that project came unraveled. They actually demolished the building between Windermere and Molbach's for that project. That building is no longer there. It's level.
Wow.
It's grass now. behind
Wow.
Cyclone Fence. That whole area, the whole block between Molbach's and my building. I am horrified at what's happened there. And I guess Molbach's is actually going out of business this month. And I don't know who to be mad at because I don't know all the details. But
Yeah.
I'm just, it's just horrifying. Molbach's is Woodinville. And Molbach's is has been a draw to Woodinville, a very important pillar in the community. It's provided a lot of jobs, but more than that, it's drawn people from around the area and probably nationally. So they had an enormous reputation. It's the first thing I heard about when I moved here. Before I moved here, my girlfriend and I would go to Molbach's. Why wouldn't we go to Molbach's? It was amazing. It is amazing. Anyway, so along those lines, now I find out that Tuesday or Wednesday, Pete Carroll got sacked. And I'm like, on what planet? I mean, he made it to the playoffs, almost to the playoffs like 2 years in a row. He's been to the, we won the Super Bowl with him as coach. We went to the Super Bowl another time. Then there was the bad play at the end.
Well,
but I think he's done a great job. And
yeah.
I just don't know what the big plan is, why the big shakeup right now, So anyway, so my point to this story is because I wanted to do another shout out. All the guys after Pete got sacked and he did his interview, right? Remember they did the press conference, which I saw. After that, they went to the Oxford in Snohomish.
Yep. I saw that picture. You posted that picture.
I did. I posted it on Facebook. But I just thought, I wish I was there. I love the Oxford. So, but all the guys were there, including Russell Wilson.
Wow.
Anyway, love the Oxford. This is a shout out to the Oxford. Great food, great burgers, great drinks, fun place. It's just, it's fun. They have live music there a lot, depending on the day of the week. You can have your kids there. It's just great. It's just really fun. They've got a bar area and then they've got regular dining.
Well,
it's got a historic past, slightly haunted, they say.
Well, they've got a really good menu. I love the burgers there. You've got, live music usually on Fridays and Saturday nights, right? And it's really good. And it's just a fun place to hang out. I mean, it's good.
And it's busy. They get busy. Like when they have the music, it gets packed. So it's really fun. It's not like there's 5 people in there. It's packed. And it's usually standing room only. And that's okay. Because it's fun.
Yep. So
anyway.
Well, I tell you what, on that note, how about if we call it a day?
Are we calling it, Dan?
I think so. We're at the hour 37-minute mark. So
I know. Well, if I was going to have a cocktail, I'd have one now, but I'm not going to. So there's none of that happening.
No.
Hey, Carol. Hi, Pearl. Hi, Max.
Well.
Hi, guys. We're getting ready to sign off. Love you guys. See you later. Bye, Dan. Are you signing us off yet?
Oh, I haven't. Here, hang on.